In Revelation 12, the Apostle John switches from talking about the 7 trumpets and trials of the earth to war in heaven. Revelation 12 verses 7 to 10 is where the war begins. What does the dragon do in the war in heaven? The word tannin or dragon appears multiple times in the Old Testament when referring to a great monster, whether in the sea or on land. Exodus 7:9, 7:10, 7:12, 32:33, Psalms 91 verse 13. However, the word dragon only appears in the book of Revelations in the New Testament, 12:3, 12:4, 12:7, 12:9, 12:16, 12:17. Each reference to the dragon in Revelations is when communicating something about the devil and his actions. While many other symbols in Revelations have multiple interpretations, the dragon in the war in heaven is clearly defined in verse 10. The huge dragon, the ancient serpent, who is called the devil and Satan. In the war in heaven, the dragon, Satan, fights against the archangel Michael and his angels. Nothing is mentioned about how long this battle ensues. But it is clear in verse 8 that the dragon lost the battle, and he and his angels were forced out of heaven. Once Satan is expelled from heaven, he turns his attention to the child mentioned in Revelation 12 verse 5, which represents Jesus. But it doesn't take long for the child, Jesus, to win over the dragon, Satan. They triumphed over him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, Revelation 12 verse 11. Once the dragon has found himself defeated by armies of angels and the child, he turns his attention to the woman. But who does this woman represent? Hedges expands on this idea, saying the woman is probably not Mary, but Israel. Verse 2 is clear echoes of Genesis 37, the passage about Joseph's dream where the 12 stars represented the 12 sons of Jacob. John seems to be identifying this woman with Israel, God's covenant people. In the Constable commentary, Dr. Thomas Constable says that since Satan can no longer accuse the saints, Revelation 12 verses 11 to 12, or harm Christ, Satan's attentions turn to the heritage of Jesus, the Jewish people. Satan's new assault begins the Great Tribulation. The Great Tribulation, a 3.5 period where God's wrath is multiplied, is not to be confused with the 7-year tribulation, at the end of which the Antichrist will be revealed. What does the war in heaven represent? There are 2 schools of thought about what the war of heaven in Revelations 12 represents. First is a turning point in the end times timeline. Satan's efforts to slander and accuse the saints before God will end. Satan will no longer have an audience in heaven, Job 1 verse 6, Revelation 12 verse 10. Many theologians, including Charles Swindoll from his book Insights on